What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video on the Fantasy Fellowship channel. My name is Kyle. Happy Thursday. Hope everyone's doing well. We're going to cover the round 2 divisional playoff games. There's 4 of them this weekend, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. They're all very, very good games. We're in the final 8 of the NFL. So we're going to just hop right into this one. We're going to go over some practice reports. We'll look at some numbers and we'll kind of just talk about each game just briefly and kind of get you guys ready for this weekend. Starting with Houston and Kansas City. The Chiefs are 8.5-point home favorites in this one. 41.5 total implied. That's the lowest scoring total of the weekend here. And Chiefs heavy money line favorite here, of course. Looks like a little bit of interest in the 8.5 being covered by the Texans. But let's look at the injury report coming in this one because I did see something that piqued my interest. So they play on Saturday, meaning today is their Friday in a normal work week. And Joe Mixon did not practice today. No Robert Woods. He was DNP all week, so I'm not quite sure what's going on with him. But Joe Mixon, nothing on Tuesday, limited on Wednesday, did not practice on Thursday. So we have to watch for Joe Mixon here. He's probably going to play, but he's probably not 100%. So that could be a little bit of an issue as they're trying to run the ball. Otherwise, everything else looks pretty good here. That's just the main one for the Houston Texans. Al-Shair's questionable here, but he was limited the last 2 days. Overall, they look pretty good besides the Joe Mixon we'll have to watch. And then on the Chiefs side here, not sure what's going on with Mecole Hardman. IR, knee injury, limited practice. I don't know if he's going to play or not. But everybody else is full practice here. They're coming off the bye. This is probably one of the healthiest moments for the Chiefs this entire season. So we like what they got going on here. And what can we expect in this game? These two teams didn't play each other, did they? I don't think they played each other this year. I just want to double check and make sure we don't have a precedent for earlier here. They played back in week 3 here. Let's take a peek at this. Oh, no, this was a few weeks ago. 27-19. Looks like Pat Mahomes, 1 touchdown. They ran the ball well with Kareem Hunt, 11 for 55. Mahomes, 5 for 33 in a rushing touchdown. Pacheco, not a lot. This was a good Xavier Worthy game, 7 for 65 in a score. Samaje Perine did some damage, and Hollywood Brown looked pretty good as well here. No turnovers over here for Kansas City. The Texans did have 2 interceptions by Stroud. Couldn't really run the ball, 14 for 57, although that's decent, 4.1 yards per carry. This was a good Tank Dell game, 6 for 98 and a touchdown, but obviously he's gone. So Collins, 7 for 60. So I don't know. This was an 8-point game a little bit ago. Tank Dell obviously not playing. Chiefs are healthy right now, man. This could be a repeat here, and it's also in Kansas City as well. So I'm just going to open up this game and see if we can find any props or things that we like. Looking into some touchdown bets here, and I think I'm going to release a prop video tomorrow night with one of my good friends. But we have Isaiah Pacheco plus 155 to score. Not sure I love that. Travis Kelce's plus 150. Kareem Hunt plus 170. I think I'd probably take the Kareem Hunt over the Isaiah Pacheco. And then Joe Mixon, again, we'll see if he's probably going to play, but he's probably not going to be 100%. I do like Xavier Worthy to score plus 205. I think that's an interesting one. And then obviously Nico Collins down here at plus 160. I think that's, Nico Collins has been pretty money. Came through last weekend. I would bet that he comes through again one more time for us. So those are the 2 receivers that I like. If I'm betting on a running back, it might be Kareem Hunt, who's been very, very good this year despite his veteran age. And then otherwise, you're going to be betting on a lot of random touchdowns here. I think Marquise Brown could score. Mahomes can get a rushing touchdown. Noah Gray seems to pop off every now and then. You could have some fun looking at that kind of stuff. I just want to see the passing numbers here. They're giving Stroud, he's kind of right around 230, and Mahomes even at about 250. On the season, Mahomes only averaged 245. So both these guys are kind of coming in under their averages here, but this game's saying they're going to be over. And then passing touchdowns, they're saying Mahomes gets the 2. CJ Stroud does not get the 2. I'll probably take the 1.5 here for Mahomes. Unsure on Stroud. Probably got to give him an interception. His over is minus 160. So we'll see if CJ can get that second touchdown. The nature of this game, might lead the Texans to throw the ball a little bit more. So I'm not opposed to that 1.5 there. which could be interesting. If we just look at fantasy points allowed real quick here, the Kansas City Chiefs, and this is like the whole season body of work that we're looking at here. I have the Chiefs right here. And where are those Texans? So they both rank pretty well in terms of, fantasy points allowed in general here. You can see the Chiefs do allow tight end points, so maybe Dalton Schultz is worth looking at. Dalton Schultz, 5 for 45 and a touchdown the last time these teams played. So maybe in DraftKings, he might be someone worth looking into and seeing his numbers. They have his receptions, Dalton Schultz, at 3.5. They're saying over on that. His yards are up here at 39.5. So they're giving him about 4 for 40. So see, maybe that's something worth looking into because the Chiefs have been bad against tight end all year long. And then you don't really want to mess with the running backs against the Chiefs. So Joe Mixon probably not going to be the best play. And then both teams are kind of slightly green here against the quarterback and the wide receiver. So I'm expecting this to it's going to be cold. I'm sure it's going to be cold in that game. Let me see the weather here. NFLweather.com. We have 22 degrees and clear. So at least there's no, major snowstorms or cold at 22. Still going to be cold, but I'm excited to see what happens in that game. So I don't know. I'm kind of liking the Texans to cover that 8 points. They are a feisty team, and they can score in bunches when they want to. They really haven't looked all that great this year, but they held their own against the Chiefs last time. Now they're going to be without Tank Dell. If C.J. Stroud can keep those interceptions, closer to 1 or 0 for that matter, this game will be a fun game here. So I'm gonna lean Texans to cover that 8.5. That seems a little bit big for me. I do think the Chiefs will win, but I kind of like 8.5 here for Houston. Let's go to I think this is the game of the weekend. It's the Washington Commanders and the Detroit Lions. Let's have a look here at the practice report for you guys. Detroit, and they're coming off their bye. And David Montgomery was the big one, full practice all week here. So good news for Dave Montgomery. He's playing. We do have Kevin Zeitler and Patrick O'Connor listed as out. A bit of a bummer on Zeitler, I think. But otherwise, Detroit looks fine. And if we go all the way back to Washington, I think there's a couple guys we have to double check. They listed a couple linebackers out. Zach Ertz is fine. He had a DNP on Tuesday, but that was a day off. Full practice today, which is good news. Marshawn Lattimore, full practice all week. And then a little bit of Jamison Crowder limited. Bobby Wagner was the big one, DNP, and limited today. So a chance for Bobby Wagner to play in this one. And this one's going to be fun, guys. Let's look at the fantasy points allowed real quick because this one we have a Detroit Lions defense that has given up a lot of points and numbers the last few games of the regular season when they got kind of decimated with injuries. And then you have a really surprisingly good Washington Commanders defense that they don't allow quarterback, receiver, or tight end points. They do allow some running back points here, which we would expect Detroit to get a good amount of those. And then the Lions, on the other hand, they're a great matchup for opponent wide receivers. So we're going to like Terry McLaurin. We can look, at Diami Brown and some of the other guys that are going to be catching the ball. But I do think it's going to be led by the Lions running backs, and we'll see if Jaden Daniels can get enough with his receivers. This game, Lions, another 8.5-point spread. Lions, 8.5-point favorites, 55.5 points in this one. So this one's going to be an exciting game. I just think 8.5, it might be a little bit too much. So minus 108 for that. That's probably what I'm going to, as of tonight, that's probably what I'm going to be liking. And then if you look at touchdowns, they're giving Jahmyr Gibbs a touchdown, basically, which I think is, low-hanging fruit, minus 235, not a great bet, but he will probably score. I think the bigger one will be, does he get the 2 touchdowns? He's coming off that 4-touchdown game a few weeks back. But Montgomery, they're giving him minus 155. That feels good. I do like Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra in this game as well. But I think probably taking the Terry McLaurin touchdown is the sweet spot for me, plus 115. I don't have a ton of confidence in the running backs to score. Maybe Jaden Daniels gets in there with his legs. But you probably do want to sprinkle in, pretty much all of these guys here with 55 total implied points. How many points is that for the Lions here? 32.5 points. So they're basically giving them 3 touchdowns for sure, if not 4 touchdowns. Commanders are basically giving them 23. That's for sure 2 touchdowns, maybe a third. So we're looking at like 8 touchdowns in this game. So if you're looking for touchdown props, click some of these guys. And hey, if you guys are new to my channel and don't check out, we list props every weekend on the fantasyfellowship.com. If you guys just hover over content and go to the player prop bets, I list them all there. And we have a, we kind of have a thing that we like to do, and it's called the Fellowship Special, where if you pick 2 players, say we take, low-hanging fruit here. Let's go with, this isn't the best example here, but Jameson Williams and Sam Laporta. If I take both these guys separately and say we do a $20 unit on these guys, if Jameson Williams scores, I'm going to profit $6 out of this bet, which is fine. If Sam Laporta scores and Jameson Williams doesn't, I'm going to profit about $11 on this bet. But if they both score, that's where the big profits come in. So it's kind of a fun, safe way to hedge your bets here. You're hoping both guys score to get the big money, but if one of these guys score, it kind of covers your bet. So I would look into doing some of that with this game. Load up on touchdowns in this game because there's probably going to be 7 or 8 touchdowns in this one. I do want to look at some of the passing numbers here. Let's take a peek at that. And this is just in terms of fantasy points per game. Where are we? You got the Commanders down here at 8th best, and you have the Lions here at 20th. I do like Jane Daniels quite a bit in this one. The Commanders have allowed a lot more passing touchdowns, though. It looks like the Lions have been hit by running quarterbacks. So they've allowed 6 rushing touchdowns on the year, 454 rushing yards here. So this might be a sneaky spot for Jaden Daniels to hit some of his rushing numbers. So if we just look at those real quick, they have Jaden Daniels. Oh, that's receiving. Let's go to rushing, please. All right, we got Jaden Daniels at 56.5. His average is 51.5. His rushing attempts in this one, they got him, at 10.5, which is a little bit over his average. And they're taking the over. You can see that minus 120 on the over here. So if that's kind of where that's falling, I kind of like taking the over on this number of 56.5. A $20 unit on that will get you almost a double up there. You'd win about $17 and some change. So I do like Jaden Daniels running the ball in this one. If we look at, again, we looked at that Jaden Daniels rushing touchdown. I mean, go ahead and take the Jaden Daniels at plus 165, and you can pair that with Terry McLaurin. If Terry catches one, great. If Jaden Daniels runs one, you're going to have a good day, and there's a good chance that both those guys do end up scoring. So that's kind of some of the names that we like here. But really, stick to all these guys here. These guys, there's probably going to be 4 or 5 touchdowns from that group. So otherwise, let me see what else we got here. Receiving yards, they have nothing sticking out in terms of heavy minuses here. I don't know why John Bates is down here. Let me go to receptions real quick. They're taking Amon-Ra over 6.5. So if I see that, I'm usually going to like his over, and it's only a couple yards over his season average. So probably Amon-Ra 76.5 looks good to me. I just want to look and see what the Lions have been allowing for receiver yards. And they've allowed a lot of receiver yards this year. So is that correct? Let me go to FF today. Let's take a peek at that. So yeah, the Lions have allowed the most receiving yards to wide receivers. So I do like the Terry McLaurin prop as well. 68.5. I'll probably go over that. Amon-Ra's looking good. And then if you want to, I know these guys are coming off some big games. Diami Brown had a great game. Zach Ertz had a good game a couple weeks back. You can lean into some of those guys, but I think Amon-Ra and Terry are the safe ones. Sure, Jameson Williams can get there. His season average is 66.7. Maybe that's kind of a safe. Maybe that's a good 11 yards under his totals. The Commanders, they rank 20th here, and I know Marshawn Lattimore is going to be playing. I don't know how often he's going to be lined up with Jameson Williams, but this is middle of the road here. Not a bad spot here. He is significantly under his season average. What else we got sticking out here? I kind of, Gibbs at 24.5, his season average is 30. So that's something to look at there too. And then again, in terms of receptions, anything else sticking out here? We have a heavy under on Austin Eckler, 3.5 receptions. Some unders on Gibbs, Zacchaeus, Diami Brown. A lot of heavy unders here, which is something to consider. Interesting. Now, we don't have to worry about any weather in this game, and it's in the Dome. There's going to be 7 or 8 touchdowns in this one. I think this one's going to come down to turnovers. And basically, can Jared Goff stay clean of the turnovers? Because when he does turn the ball over, those usually come in bunches. If I just pull up some Jared Goff numbers here, he was, again, fantastic this season, but he threw 2 interceptions against Minnesota. He had that awful game against the Texans back in week 10 with 5 picks. But their losses this year, Jared Goff threw 2 interceptions against Tampa Bay. The other loss, he didn't have an interception. He actually threw 5 touchdowns in that game and played really well, but they were kind of playing from behind in that game here. So they can survive with some turnovers, but it's going to really depend if they can play turnover free. Can they get David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs rolling? I do think the Lions will win this game. It's going to be a lot to ask. I mean, they looked, they looked good last week against Tampa Bay at Tampa Bay. That was an impressive on the road victory for a rookie quarterback. But we're talking about a really good Detroit Lions team here. I do think, again, the game line 8.5. I guess I'm taking the Texans and the Commanders both plus 8.5 this weekend. So excited for this one Saturday night. I'm glad they put this one on Saturday night. Will be good TV. Let's move into the Sunday games here, and we're going to start with the LA Rams and the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, this one. Eagles are -6, 43.5 implied in this one. And we have to look at the weather because there's going to be on Sunday, there's going to be likely snow. We're talking games in Philadelphia and in Buffalo. Going to be cold as well. I don't know. I thought I saw a different weather report for this game, but it's going to be cold and there's going to be snow in this Eagles game. So touchdowns might be hard to come by. So make sure you load up on those touchdown bets on Saturday night. But anyways, if we just look at the quick scores real quick here, they got Barkley -170, Hurts -120, Kieran -110. The favorites to score. I do like the potential for one of those fellowship double taps where you guys put 20 units or a unit, say it's $20. You put that on A.J. Brown, and then you put that on Devonta Smith. There's a good chance one of those guys, if not both of those guys, score. And then you could probably do the same thing with Puka and Cooper Kupp if you wish. Again, 43.5 points. They're not exactly predicting a big scoring output. There's going to maybe be 4 touchdowns in this game, 5 at the most. So, stick with Saquon, stick with Jalen Hurts. And then if you want to try some of these fun double up bets here, that could be good for you. If we look at some of the fantasy numbers that these teams have been giving up, let me go. And we know the Eagles defense is really good, right? Like we know they're one of the best defenses, and I believe they were the number 1 defense. Let me actually pull up that chart. Yeah, I have them as the number 1 defense. I want to undo these guys. They're the number 1. Eagles are the number 1 defense in terms of fantasy points allowed based on this season. And then you do have the LA Rams up here at 22. And look at that. They give up a lot of points to the tight end. So maybe we can look at Dallas Goedert again. If it's going to be cold and snowy, maybe there's a few more dump offs to the tight end position here. But the Rams are actually pretty good against the other positions here. So there's not like a huge advantage for this Philadelphia offense. But we know that Eagles defense is pretty stout on pretty much every level. I do think Nolan Smith injured? If we go, did we skip the practice reports on this one? Let's look at the practice reports real quick. So these guys all have one more day of practice here. They're saying Dallas Goedert's questionable in illness. He should be fine. I would assume he's going to play by then. I see Josh Sweat. Did they put Nolan Smith on IR or something? I think that's what they did. So don't expect him to play. Everything else looks fine here. A.J. Brown just battling with that knee. He's been kind of taking the light load in practice. A few guys questionable here. Bobby Brown and Akello Witherspoon, a good cornerback for the Rams. Everything else looks fine. We'll see about Tyler Higbee, who had a nice first quarter of that game last weekend. But anyways, where were we? I want to look at the receiving props first. Let's see if anything sticks out. I usually like to look at receptions first and see where the numbers are going. They're saying A.J. Brown over 4.5. So that's going to probably make me look at his yards. His yards are only at 70, but if he's catching 5 passes, there's a good chance that he might go over both of those. So I think both of those are wise bets to follow. They're even on Devonta Smith. They're saying under on Cooper Kupp pretty heavily. So you could probably, if you want, if he's only going to catch 4 passes, 42.5 yards is low, but we're talking a good defense. Maybe that's an under worth looking into. And then they're taking the over on Dallas Goedert here, which we talked about, the Rams giving up some tight end points. So maybe that 36.5 looks a little low. If he catches 4 passes for, 37 yards, you get there. And then we got Saquon Barkley hammering him over minus 185 here to catch 1.5 passes. He's only at 11.5 yards. So I think that one's worth looking into. And then Puka, I mean, they got him all the way juiced up at 7.5. I think 88.5 yards. I might be interested in the under a little bit there. Again, this is a very, very good defense. And look at the rushing numbers real quick and see if anything sticks out for these guys. Barkley had 111.5. I don't know about that one. That one does seem a little high, but again, it's going to be a cold, snowy day in Philadelphia. So if we look at the Rams are decent against the running backs. How many 100-yard backs have we had? We've had James Conner back in week 2. Saquon Barkley destroyed these guys. We have a game between these two guys, 255, 112 to Kamara. So it's happened 3 times all year. I do want to, maybe we should pull up that Rams, Eagles. I'm just going to do Rams. Where's my Rams schedule? Eagles, Rams. All right, so Eagles destroyed them 37-20. And this game was in LA, by the way. Saquon had the huge game, 255 and 2. AJ Brown 6 for 109 and a touchdown. Barkley 4 for 47, and Goddard did get there with his 4 for 19. Looks like no Devonta Smith in this game. Maybe he didn't play. I can't remember. I thought he missed a game or two during the season. Puka Nacua, though, 9 for 117. Kupp 8 for 60 and a touchdown. Good game from Kieran. So all those guys looked like they performed well. Maybe some of that came in garbage time. The number that I'm seeing here is 5 sacks on Matthew Stafford in that game. They also lost a fumble from Kieran. So 1 turnover, 5 sacks. But overall, the numbers look fine. But again, the conditions of this game are probably not going to be ideal for a lot of overs in fantasy. But we identified a few guys that I like. I think the Eagles, I mean, they're just so fundamentally sound on both sides of the ball. This kind of weather suits them better than the Rams. I'm probably going to just take the LA Rams to lose in this game. I have to go back to the game lines. I'm not in love with the money line, so if I'm taking a bet in this game, it's probably the Eagles -6 to win by a touchdown. That's probably where we'll land. And we're shaping up for a beautiful Lions-Eagles NFC Championship game, which I think is the consensus from before the playoff bracket began. Let's finish up here with the Ravens and the Buffalo Bills. You have 51.5. The Ravens on the road, but they're 1.5-point favorites. That almost makes me want to just slap Buffalo plus 1.5. I do think that there's a good chance whoever wins this game will beat the Chiefs. We picked the Chiefs to beat the Texans. I do think that this team will represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. But hey, you never know. There's a lot of weird things that could happen. The Chiefs could easily find their way back into the Super Bowl. But I love this game. As far as touchdowns in this game, they're giving the big dog one. You got to give him one every time. Josh Allen didn't get a touchdown last weekend rushing, so I think I'll probably double down on that again. I do think he's probably going to score. We're weighing the health of Zay Flowers. He did not practice today, I believe. Let's pull that up here for Baltimore. No Zay Flowers today or yesterday. Again, tomorrow is going to be their big day. If you can get a limited in tomorrow, I'll feel better about that. But right now, it's not looking great for Zay Flowers. And then if we go to Buffalo, longer list of injuries here, but everybody was full today except for Alec Anderson and Ray Davis. Concussion, not sure if Ray Davis is going to go, so maybe we look at some Ty Johnson numbers here. But overall, it looks pretty good for both sides. We just got to watch for Zay Flowers, who they do have scoring a touchdown, but not sure I love that. Last weekend, we did post one of our double ups was you take Rashad Bateman to score and you take Mark Andrews to score. One of those guys should score a touchdown in this game, especially if no Zay Flowers. And the payouts are pretty nice on that if you put a $20 unit on both guys. So one of those guys will catch a touchdown, if not both. And then if you want to do that with the Bills, I mean, Khalil Shakir is probably due for a touchdown. Keon Coleman's kind of fun. But I'm probably just going to stick with Josh Allen, James Cook, Derrick Henry, whatever. If you want to take Derrick Henry and parlay it with the Josh Allen touchdown, I think that's fine. But otherwise, I'm sticking with Bateman, Mark Andrews, and we'll probably look at some of the other numbers here. I just want to look at one thing real quick. They're giving Baltimore 26.5 and Buffalo 25, so about 3 touchdowns for each team. And the weather in this one, again, we're watching for the snow. We know it's going to be cold. What can we do with the receiving numbers here in this game? So they're saying over on Khalil Shakir, minus 155. They're saying over on Justice Hill, which I agree with. I hit on that last weekend. Amari Cooper's just at 1.5. Keon Coleman, 1.5. Matt Collins, Dawson Knox. Under on Derrick Henry, 1.5, which is fine. But then we got Mark Andrews here. I might take Mark Andrews over 3.5 in this one. Let me look here real quick. I want to see how these guys are with the tight end spot. Ravens do allow some tight end points here. And then you have, where are they? Buffalo's allowed 5 touchdowns to the tight end on the year. They've allowed 92 receptions, though, which is a lot. That's 1 less than Baltimore. So both teams can be had against with the tight end. So I'm interested in Mark Andrews here. They're saying under heavy on Rashad Bateman, but I think a lot of that depends if Zay Flowers is going to go. Looking at the yards real quick here, I don't love anyone to really hit their overs in a big way here. So I'm probably just going to look at the receptions and touchdowns for this one. Probably a good day to look at rushing props just with the snow and the cold weather. Henry at 97.5. These two teams played earlier this year, if I recall, and I thought Baltimore killed them. Yeah, this was a long time ago, back in like week 4, 35-10. 35-10. What happened in this game? Lamar Jackson didn't have to do much. It was the Derrick Henry show. 199 and a touchdown. Lamar got a rushing touchdown. Justice Hill was unleashed, 6 for 78 and a touchdown. Lamar didn't really have amazing flashy numbers here. He ran the ball. They took care of the ball. Josh Allen couldn't do anything in this game. 5 for 21. James Cook couldn't do anything in this game. Shakir, 4 for 62. Kincaid, 5 for 47. But a lack of James Cook in this game. Not a lot else in this game. This game was in Baltimore, by the way. So I would be shocked if this is the outcome, if a team won by 25 points on Sunday here. So I'm kind of just going to throw this game out, but it's making me like Derrick Henry a little bit more because, the Bills have showed that you can get some points against the Bills on the ground here. They do rank 27th here. They've allowed 10 rushing touchdowns on the year, 6 to receiving backs. A lot of receiving yards here. Actually, this is the most receiving yards in the league to running back. So we do have a little bit of push towards Justice Hill. Look at some of his numbers. And again, so we like Henry. We like Justice Hill. I like the touchdown prop of Bateman and Andrews, and then probably Josh Allen throwing the ball. Yeah, that's who I was thinking of, not Nolan Smith. Jacoby Dean. So Eagles still a really strong defense, man. I think the Rams are going to struggle, and the Rams are just kind of happy to be here, so they could be playing spoiler. But I think the Eagles, especially in this cold, snowy atmosphere, that kind of favors their game. The Rams are a little bit more finesse on offense, but we love the games this weekend. I'm very excited to see what will happen. Again, if I'm predicting the games, I'm gonna go Baltimore, Kansas City. I'm gonna go Detroit and Eagles. I know it's kind of chalk, but I do think there's some opportunities to hit some of these props here, whether it's Houston covering 8.5, whether it's the Commanders covering 8.5. I do think the Eagles will cover this, and then I guess I'll take the Ravens to win, even though it doesn't feel right. I just, as good as Josh Allen's been this year, they still don't have enough around him, I think, to overcome Baltimore. And Baltimore's been one of the best defenses in the league the last couple months. You have probably the MVP in Lamar, and you have Derrick Henry. So tough task for the Bills. It's in Buffalo, so anyone can do it. But I'm excited, man. We got football coming up on Saturday. Again, I'm going to be posting some player props tomorrow night. I think we're dropping a video for that, so stay tuned for that. And thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday night, guys. We'll see you next time. Peace. Got me feeling icy.